Can get started so that we can be respectful of everyone's time. Good morning. My name is Nicole Ingalls. I'm a planner in the Community Development Division. Probably most of you know me by now. Today we're going to talk about the HOME-ARP Allocation Plan draft and the Section 108 loan program. So I will talk about HOME-ARP and then we'll follow that up with Greg Paskach talking about Section 108 with some built-in times for questions. First up, we're going to actually have our colleague Christina give us the Spanish interpretation portion of the day. So Christina, take it away.
Thank you. Hola, hoy tenemos a Aileen en los subtítulos. Randy y Nicole ofrecerán interpretación en español. Si quieren activar el subtítulo, por favor hagan clic al icono pequeño que dice CC al pie de la pantalla. Luego dirá Show Captions. Esto está ilustrado en la foto hacia arriba, circulado en rojo en una de las pantallas. Si le gustaría escuchar esta junta en español, por favor hagan clic al icono hacia la derecha que lee ES y dice español abajo. Esto los pondrá en una transmisión de audio separada donde podrá escuchar a nuestros intérpretes. Si tiene algún problema con cualquiera de estas opciones, por favor, mándenos un mensaje usando el chat y uno de nuestros colegas de servicio técnico los ayuda con cualquiera de los problemas que tengan. Gracias.
Thank you, Christina. So today we have Eileen on captioning and Randy and Nicole providing Spanish interpretation. If you would like to enable captioning, you can go to the small CC icon at the bottom of your screen and it will say show captions once you click on it. After that, you should be able to see the captions just down below. Then there will be, if you need Spanish interpretation, which you probably already got your directions, but anyway, there will be a little world icon with lines down at the bottom of your screen that says interpretation. And you can click on that and then choose Spanish. When you do that, you will get me at about 30% volume and the interpreters at full volume. If you would like to only have the interpreters on, you can click mute original audio and only hear them. So if you have any trouble with either of those options, please just put it in the chat and one of our colleagues who's providing tech support today will help you out with that. I'm going to give you a few seconds to make those changes if you need, and then we'll move on. Okay, so we will start with the HOME-ARP Allocation Plan. This is a plan that we've been working on for a while and is finally being ready to be submitted to HUD as a draft. So the American Rescue Plan provided about $5 billion for homeless assistance and other at-risk households. It's really aimed at getting people out of homelessness through the production of rental units. It was distributed along regular home formulas, which since we are a home entitlement community, we received these funds. We are in a consortia with Council Bluffs. So Council Bluffs is entitled to a portion of these funds if they have a project that will align with the plan. And then the funds are available to use through September of 2023. So all expenditures of these funds must be made by then. The program requirements are in HUD Notice CPD 21-10. And if you would like to read more about the specifics of it, you can go there. We received just shy of $8.2 million in the Omaha Council Bluffs Consortia. So we'll have out of that about $7 million for projects and programming. And then the state of Nebraska received about $15 million and the state of Iowa received about $29.5 million. Council Bluffs would be eligible for funds also out of the state of Iowa. So if you're an Iowa provider or developer, you should also be looking towards the state of Iowa to see what their allocation plan is doing. For the state of Nebraska, we know that those funds are likely going to be all spent outside of Omaha and Lincoln Lancaster. Okay, I wanted to start with a little bit of data before we get into some things, the development of the plan requires you to look at data and do some consultations. So this is point in time data. Point in time is a day that everyone goes out, not everyone, a group of people goes out to take an inventory of the number of beds available to people experiencing homelessness, talk to everyone that we can on who is unsheltered, and then that provides our count for the year. And that happens all across the country sometime in the last 10 days of January. The three things that I think are really important to note on this data are that, one, our unsheltered numbers have been through the roof in the last year. So we have a 15-year high. So this is 10 years, but really it's a 15-year high of 161 unsheltered people in January of 2022. When we did the PIT count in 2023, we don't have numbers yet, but I was told yesterday that there were 100 unsheltered people just in Council Bluffs, which is incredibly high because typically Council Bluffs has about 30% of our unsheltered population for the Omaha Council Bluffs metro. And then also the number of chronic homeless is very high at 400. So we're seeing increases there where previously, increases there across the years. 2021 was probably a low because of the influx of ESGCV funds and other philanthropic funds intended to get people out of shelter and congregate situations during COVID. But even with those two numbers, we have this is the fourth lowest year for the total number of homeless individuals in the 15 years. So total number of homeless is down, but unsheltered and chronic homeless is up, which is not a great trend. So a few more data points as we look through, we certainly see the high number of unsheltered and chronic again, but also we have high points for substance abuse and mental illness. In 2021, there were 332 people reporting a substance abuse issue and 480 in 2022. With mental illness, that was a similar jump, but I don't have the number in front of me. Also, when we're looking at our chronically homeless individuals, we have 58% of individuals who were unsheltered are chronically homeless. So again, not a great number. The number of veterans has actually been going down because this has been a priority for the COC for several years. So 91 is a decrease and is the lowest number in the last 5 years. Those fleeing domestic violence is at 82. That stayed about even over the course of the last 5 years. And the number of people with HIV/AIDS has jumped around a little bit, but it's all stayed in that like 10 to 15 number. Another important part of the people experiencing homelessness is that we have some really significant disparities between our racial makeup of the general population in the community versus those experiencing homelessness. This is particularly high for Black households and Native American households. Native American households make up about 0.4% of our population in Omaha, but 4.8% of our homeless population. I would also add that as we were looking through data from various sources with the emergency rental assistance program and the eviction data, while we don't have racial makeups on all of those, we do have zip code data. And so the zip codes that utilized the most ERAP and where there were the highest levels of evictions were also in those highest concentrations for Black households. So we see a significant trend of problematic indicators for those households that while these funds aren't targeted to fixing that problem directly, we can make sure that any program that we are funding is working on addressing disparity through how they bring people in. Next up is our needs and gaps analysis. So this is a table that was provided to us by HUD. And there are some things that I'd like to call out in here, particularly that you can see we have 924 emergency shelter beds for adults only. And we have more than that in the total homeless population. Our shelter utilization is very seldom 100%. We don't see the numbers of people going into overflow that we used to, although that does happen. But it is still concerning that if we had every adult who is homeless currently choosing to go into shelter, we would not have enough beds for them. We also have a lack of beds for families. That's a huge disparity in our community. While it kind of looks like maybe there are enough, we also know that right now, as of I think last week, the Micah House had a wait list of 25 families waiting to come into shelter. And that does not count the families who are doubled up, who are just not making that connection. So we know that there's a shortage for families. Let me make sure I covered everything I'd like to there. So when we also look at some other groups, we have shortages certainly for non-traditional couplings is the word that has been used a bit. So that would be things like a parent and an older child, or a husband and wife who don't want to be separated. So a lot of our shelter beds are for people who either they're split by gender or they require you to have a minor child with you. But if you need that other family member for support or to take care of you, there's not necessarily going to be a bed. So looking at those gaps and targeting that to get into housing is important. This summer we did our Housing Affordability Action Plan. And in that document, we have a gap of 19,206 units affordable to households making less than $25,000. That's an important number because that's right about at the level of 30% AMI for a household of 3 people. And that's a huge gap. So this is aiming to add households. We just see that great need. The last part of the requirements was engagement. So we did a lot of consultation and engagement through the HAP or through the HOME-ARP Affordability Act. Through the HOME-ARP Allocation Plan process. So we met with 4 match groups, which is general membership, street outreach, provider council, and the youth housing providers. So that's people who specifically provide housing to youth. While we met with street outreach, we also had people go out on street outreach about twice a month over the course of a year or so that we could have that frontline view. And then we also really prioritized lived experience voices. So Youth Homeless Advisory Committee through Match. We went to the Stevens Center and met with a focus group there. And then we had the Match Lived Experience Board, who we met with for HOME-ARP, and we also met with for the Housing Affordability Action Plan. With the match groups, we also really wanted to prioritize those frontline voices rather than higher level voices so that we could get the barriers that they are identifying. So that's where the street outreach and the general membership meetings became very important. We also developed a survey, a couple of them, and they were split out by type of agency. So we had homeless services where we had 38 responses. I won't read all of these to you, but we sent them to veterans, domestic violence providers, lived experience, disability advocates and providers, and civil rights providers, and then again to street outreach. And then we have previously had 4 public meetings where HOME-ARP was a topic for people to hear about and give input on. We also included a lot of the engagement that we did with the Housing Affordability Action Plan in this engagement process. So I want to touch on, before I move on, I didn't have a slide included on it, some of the feedback that we received. So one is that the main topic, as always, is that there just aren't enough units for the folks who are trying to exit homelessness. The rapid rehousing and scattered site permanent supportive housing programs just do not have enough landlords willing to work with their programs There just aren't enough units that are qualifying under the housing quality standards. That was the number one thing that everyone said. And that goes for any of these groups. We also heard a lot about the need for emergency shelter for people who are trying to flee domestic violence. There are not enough beds for people fleeing domestic violence and trafficking where they can receive appropriate care, and also where people know that they can have a bed available for them if they need to go, which if you aren't certain of where you can go, it's going to make it harder for you to leave a bad situation. We also heard a lot about people who may have a pet, again, those non-traditional couplings. We need a lot for large families, a lot of units for large families, but we also need a lot of units for single individuals. There's some really cool things happening in our community around shared housing, and the Metro Housing Collaborative is using those, is leading that effort. So if we could get some 2-bedroom units, 3-bedroom units, that would go a long way to serving families and those non-traditional couplings that were received. Remember, with HUD, you define your family. I don't get to define your family. Your provider doesn't get to define your family. You define your family. So if you have a friend that you feel is your family, you can tell them that you have to be housed together and they can't separate you. And so for a lot of those, you may need a 2-bedroom unit, but it can also work with those shared housing units. We also heard a lot about pets and a lot about accessibility. And accessibility is not a one-size-fits-all. So any housing that's constructed really needs to be easily modified so that it can meet the needs of one person, and then when that person leaves, meet the needs of someone else. So you may have seen the 4 qualifying populations that HOME-ARP can work with. These are homeless, at risk of homeless, fleeing or attempting to flee domestic violence, sexual assault, stalking, or human trafficking, and other populations. I've got the definitions for homeless and at risk of homeless on the next slide, but I won't stop there. I just want them there so that when you get these slides, you can look at them. But if you want to read the longer, more complete definitions, they can be found at 24 CFR 91.5. Grant or Wyatt, if you could find that in the eCFR and link it, that would be much appreciated. So we are going to establish preferences for 3 of these groups. That's the homeless, at risk of homelessness, and fleeing or attempting to flee domestic violence. When asked who we should prioritize, people really came back to us with chronic homeless, DV, and children or families with children, because we don't have enough space for families with children. So I'll go on. These are the definitions. Okay. Now, there are 4 primary eligible activities. There are a couple others, but these are the primary ones. So acquisition, construction, rehabilitation of rental housing, tenant-based rental assistance, supportive services, or acquisition and rehabilitation of non-congregate emergency shelter. Not traditional congregate shelter, and not operations for any kind of shelter, just acquisition and rehabilitation. So what we're choosing to do is to put funding towards the acquisition and rehabilitation of rental housing, and we'd love to see rehabilitation, supportive services, and then some non-congregate shelter. We're not choosing to put money towards tenant-based rental assistance because there are, while it's needed, for sure, there are there are a lot of sources of rental assistance in the community where people can't use it. So people have a very hard time finding a landlord who will take their Section 8 voucher, or the rapid rehousing program is having a difficult time finding landlords who will work with them and their programs. Thank you, Grant. The definitions are now in the chat. And so we just chose that was not a place we wanted to put our funds. Ideally, what would happen here is that we will have the rental housing And we'll be able to work with OHA, Sarpy County Housing, MHA in Council Bluffs, or Douglas County Housing Authority, because people don't have to live in the jurisdiction that they get their voucher from, and have a set aside for people exiting homelessness to live in the units that we construct. That way we can prioritize people who are exiting a rapid rehousing program, who would then be at risk of homelessness again, because the way that we prioritize people for rapid rehousing in our community puts very vulnerable people there. And the goal is to serve very vulnerable people. So it makes sense. But it puts very vulnerable people who are not necessarily going to be able to stabilize permanently and who really need the permanent supportive housing. So they need longer term assistance. So if we can work with people who are ready to move on from permanent supportive housing, they've stabilized there, they're ready to move on, or people who are exiting rapid rehousing who really need a long-term rental subsidy, but may not need as intensive of services, we can free up some of those places so that we can get more people into the rapid rehousing and those very rare permanent supportive housing programs. We know we need more permanent supportive housing in our community, and hopefully this will help free some of that up. We also want to provide funding for supportive services, so that we think that we could provide about 3 case managers for the time period of the grant. And that way people can have some of the lighter touch services that will help make them successful in this housing and still be able to, stabilize. And then with the non-congregate emergency shelter, what we would do is be willing to fund up to 2 projects with that. One of them would need to be a domestic violence shelter. We know that there, as said before, there are not enough beds for domestic violence shelters and victims of trafficking to be able to be secure in the fact that there will be a bed for them when they flee. So that would be what we aim to do there. And there would be a limitation on that project, not just a preference, to serve those folks. So this is the allocation by project type. We figure we can put about $1.4 million into supportive services, $2 million into non-congregate shelter if we get suitable applications. If we don't, we can move that into development of affordable rental housing. Please also note, with the development of non-congregate shelter, you have to have a plan to fund it going forward. That's something that HUD will require us to look at. And then we're putting about $3.6 million into the development of affordable rental housing. We didn't put anything into nonprofit operating or capacity building at this point, because we know we have other partners in the community who can do that work. And then we have our admin costs. Okay, so looking at those numbers of where we allocated funding to, our production goals are about 21 units for producing or preserving affordable rental housing. And then 3 caseworkers for 5 to 6 years for supportive services. And then we think we could probably produce about 22 units of non-congregate emergency shelter. So again, targeting or attempting to flee domestic violence, sexual assault, stalking, or human trafficking. So at least one of those projects would need to be a DV shelter. With all of these, there are different production or different compliance periods. And that's all in the notice. There's also there are some more slides that we won't spend time on in here. They're again just for when you get to them, that provide some more information on the technical side if that's something that you're interested in doing. So again, this is one of those slides. These are the eligible activities. There is some leeway for rental housing to serve people who are in the low income, very low income, and extremely low income outside of people exiting homelessness, for developers to make a more feasible operating cost, make it match their operating costs. So we wanted to include the 2022 area median incomes. We don't have 2023 yet. So just know that you're looking in these 2 groups for what those income levels will be, and then the FMRs will come along with that. We aren't doing tenant-based rental assistance, but if you wanted to comment on telling us we should, want you to know how that can work. supportive services. And the supportive services are cool because they can provide a larger range of services than normal. The normal to ESG or COC funds. So yes, okay. So please put any comments or questions in the chat. Remember, the comment period for the HOME-ARP funds closes on February 24th. You can send any comments to hcdcomments@cityofomaha.org. If you have any questions, you can email me. I'll put my email in the chat, although I'm not sure I can put it in the chat for everyone. So I may need Grant to put my email in the chat for you.
Will do.
And thank you, Grant. This is the link to the allocation plan. I'm still updating as we go. I'm updating the appendices. So if you have talked to me and your input is not yet in the appendices, I'm still working on it. Don't worry. And this is the QR code. If you just want to scan it and take you right to that plan, it's there for you. So we'll give you a couple of seconds for questions and then I'll hand it over to Greg. And we really do want your comments, even if you think that it's bad or there's stuff that was left out, please send your comments in. We want a robust picture of what we're doing. But if you want to say it's great, I welcome that too. All right, I don't see anything in the chat or in the Q&A. Oh,
We have a Q&A.
Yeah,
Can you tell me
so
for the
Andrea-
non-congregate? I'm
Andrea-
just going to read it out for others too. Can you tell me for the non-congregate shelter for DV, HTA, and stocking, can you tell me if all populations have to be encompassed, or could one of the populations be funded?
That is a good question that I don't have an exact answer to. What might be able to happen, Andrea, is that we could have our limitation for that qualified population and then a preference for domestic violence. I know that's what you do. But the thing with HOME-ARP is that unless there's a limitation, everyone has to have access to the projects. So you might be able to have a preference for DV, which HUD understands that when we establish preferences, that's likely going to be a de facto limitation because there just isn't enough money to serve everyone. So when we give a preference when we establish a preference for people who are at risk of homelessness because they are exiting rapid rehousing and they don't have means for stability long-term, they will be at the top of the list. And we are planning to expand coordinated entry to make those referrals, but all of the qualified populations, anyone who qualifies, including the other populations, which I meant to read the definitions of that. Other populations is other families requiring services or housing assistance to prevent homelessness and households at greatest risk of housing stability, particularly veterans and families that include a veteran family member. So they would all go on that list. And then when there's a unit open up, then the list would move up. So I would guess that it would be similar with the shelter, but I can check that out with them. Anything else? Great. Greg, you want to take it away?
Yeah. Thanks, Nicole. And thanks for everybody for hanging tight. It's nice to see there's still a good amount of people want to listen and talk about Section 108. So I'm going to pull up slides for that one. All right. So the Section 108 Loan Guarantee Program. This really is part of Community Development Block Grant.
Sorry, Greg.
Can
I just have you go to click the slideshow button?
Sorry. Okay.
Okay.
Yep. Gotcha. There we go. All right, thanks all. So this, like I said, actually is part of the CDBG program. So section 108 is the loan guarantee portion of it. And so for a few of the acronyms, most folks are familiar, but we'll talk about HUD, Housing and Urban Development, Community Development Block Grants, and then NRSAs, Neighborhood Revitalization Strategy Areas. And so what 108 allows us to do, right? We receive an annual allocation of CDBG funds, right, each year. Currently in 22 is about 4.3 million. The number has been relatively flat over time. So the 108 program is a way to leverage this, right? So we can basically borrow up to 5 times of that annual CDBG allocation and use it for eligible uses, which we'll get into. So the city is looking at saying, hey, great, roughly 21 million would be what would be eligible for pulling on this program. And as mentioned, since it's part of the CDBG program, projects that would utilize 108 need to meet those CDBG requirements, section 108 underwriting criteria. And the way this works, right, in terms of, this loan guarantee, it's really the city providing a loan to projects, and the city's CDBG is the guarantee, right? So HUD's providing a guarantee to the marketplace to say, if principal interest isn't paid, the CDBG funds will be recouped, which is certainly not of interest for the city's perspective. So as we look at this, we're going to make sure that we structure this, that there's other collateral, right, related to these projects to make sure that those CDBG funds are safe. I mentioned here, in that last point when we talk about the collateral, but we do have financing terms are flexible. You have up to 20 years on the term. But I know, for instance, amortization schedule, we can look at that. So you could have a longer amortization schedule period, maybe 30 years, potentially up to 40, if that's something that made sense for the project. So talk about eligible uses, we kind of have, what the city's intended use of it is, and then also just within the 108 regs. So for the city's intended use, we're looking to establish an affordable housing loan pool, right? We can use to support projects, affordable housing projects within the NRSAs. And the reason being, one, there's great need within the NRSAs. There's several redevelopment plans underway there. You look at the choice neighborhood initiatives that are underway. And then it also allows us to have federal financing work together a little more smoothly within the NRSAs. HUD provide this a little more flexibility on the regulation side. So multi-purpose there. In terms of programs, in terms of regulations, what we can actually do with the funds, we have the application that we're looking at submitting ties, these main eligible uses into the regs, but pre-development financing is certainly one of them. And so you get into site prep of soft costs related to this. You can do infrastructure related to a larger project. Available to nonprofit, for-profit borrowers. You'll see this note here a couple different times. It talks about really new construction, whether single family, multifamily, right, needs to be carried out by a community-based development organization or a CBDO. So we'll talk a little bit more about that, but I just want to call that out. So obviously rehab becomes a primary use for not a CBDO, or there's a CBDO partnering with other, say, developers to carry out a project, right, on the new construction side. So we'll take a pause and pull this in. We mentioned the NRSAs, to be able to provide a visual here. The city currently has 2 pretty large neighborhood revitalization strategy areas. These do change over time. And so as part of the 5-year consolidated plan in 24, it's going to be a new plan. And so we're looking at this, we're looking at, do the NRSAs we have still make sense? They largely do. I think really the biggest conversation we're having is, within kind of midtown, downtown area, there are areas that it could make sense to have an NRSA. So we're looking at that option as well, especially as more development comes in. So it could change over time. And I would just say at this point, it's largely probably going to be an addition in terms of what's available in that core of the city. So other eligible uses, acquisition. So, again, just kind of this caveat that it's available to nonprofit and for-profit, but if you're doing acquisition related to a new construction project, it needs to be tied to CBDO activities. But it works really well, right? Is the next use up is rehab financing. So you can do acquisition rehab together. You can use this and get a little better interest rate. Right, CBDO activities, especially as we call this out, right, is kind of its own category of eligible uses. So again, creation of new units, again, single family, multifamily, but there's also a little wiggle room on the community economic development side of things. So there is the possibility of creating maybe some commercial space, and a CBDO could go after that and use funds in support of that. So it mentions here available to certified CBDO borrowers. Can work with, city doesn't actually currently have any formal CBDOs. We would be happy to obviously work with community groups, and we providing this right as an avenue forward, as a pathway. We don't want to restrict ourselves. So if an organization happens to be a CHOTO, for instance, that can be a way that you can also get that CBDO label and do that. So, but it's something just so we'd be happy to work with you as an organization and HUD to get that addressed. Other eligible use, just HUD doesn't call it admin, but operating activities of this loan pool of the fund itself, right? So issuance costs, processing applications, doing underwriting. Obviously there's interest costs that we have to pay on the amount that we would have in that loan pool, debt service reserves overall. So want to make sure we're capturing that. So I mentioned earlier, right, so we have, as part of the CDBG program, still complying with this. So we have national objectives and public benefit standards that may have to be met. So on the national objective side, really by having this targeted within the NRSAs, we're going to do pretty well here with that first one, benefit to low and moderate income persons. And so, right, the focus is on housing development, larger revitalization programs. But we will make sure each project complies with this, but I think we're in pretty good shape on that front. The public benefit standards largely are going to be applicable to CBDO activities and some of the things they may get into. So again, project by project basis, we'd be reviewing it to make sure that we're in compliance. In terms of the underwriting expectations, there's federal guidelines we have to comply with. And so as part of this process, right, a project application would be submitted. We're going to do our own underwriting process. It's obviously going to comply with the feds, because even if the city, looks at a project and says, yeah, this is something we're comfortable with, we want to move forward, it's still going to go to HUD for their review as well, right? So just trying to make sure there's alignment and we don't have any unwelcome surprises. But just so you know, there's going to be a couple different parties looking at the projects. And so the debt service coverage ratio that's listed here as a 1.2 or above, again, ties to that HUD guideline. So give you an idea of what's involved. The collateral piece, obviously making sure there's sufficient collateral in place. As mentioned, the city's CDBG funds are kind of the backstop, but from the city's perspective, we're going to make sure there's something else in place, looking at real property of that developer owner. In the case of, say, an infrastructure project, it is maybe more just straight infrastructure rather than, as kind of an early stage pre-development. We can work through those issues of what would be appropriate. So again, it'll be something that we'll have conversations with HUD and we'll be as flexible as we can. In terms of what rates you can expect for this, because again, it is a loan product. HUD is basing their rate, as you can see here, off the T-bill, right, 13-week plus 35 basis points. And the 35 basis points are taking a drawdown. So you get that as a one-time. And so you have this 3-month bill as of today actually is just shy of 4.6. In the application, we also mentioned that, we would anticipate roughly 0.5% being added for being able to process applications, doing underwriting, right, doing the servicing on this. So We would expect at this point in time, you'd have a commercial loan that would be, roughly 5%. So depending what your activities are and where you're at in the marketplace, that could be a couple points lower. A couple 100 basis points lower. So should be useful in this time of high inflation. The other thing I will say, here as we look at this is, since it is, functionally a HUD product that we're utilizing, and it's happening within the NRSAs, it's going to layer well with low-income housing tax credit, historic tax credit, new market tax credits. It can work with private activity bonds. It's just something that we would have a conversation with HUD on right off the bat, just because there's kind of, if you're looking at, say, tax exempt bonds and what's involved with this lower rate, the feds just want to make sure that we're not getting multiple subsidy on one side. So, but we can work through those issues. So in terms of kind of process, right, there would be a project that gets submitted to the city. Again, the city's going to look at it, make sure it aligns with our interests, underwrite the project. Then we basically submit to HUD for their review to make sure they agree, and then it's workable, and then they provide that loan guarantee. Loan gets made, functionally passes through the city back to the project, and then, right, we disperse, and we have the ongoing servicing for that loan. So just as a recap here, one of the great things is for the city, it allows us to create another incentive, another resource, without having to come up with those funds ourselves initially, and also, to continue to leverage in the communities and the parts of the city that we are working in, right, to bring about additional success. But you can use it for a variety of things. Again, it's going to work well with other funding sources. Again, the ability to get up to $5 for every $1 of CDBG funds. You do have flexibility in that repayment schedule, as we discussed earlier. And again, it's going to be pretty reasonably priced. And again, it's hard to say exactly where you're going to come in at, but I think what we're seeing so far is roughly 2% lower than market. So should be a valuable tool for folks. And with that, as Nicole said, definitely want to hear people's feedback of how functional they think this resource could be as it's currently structured. I've had preliminary conversations with HUD around our application. I've received some feedback from them and our partners. But the idea is to really take into consideration any thoughts we have of how people might be looking to use this, so we can make it as viable as an application and product as we can moving forward. After the comment period closes, be working on making those adjustments and submitting to HUD. And ideally, we'd be looking at a HUD review and approval process of around 45 days before we would then move into that next phase of making this thing go live. So welcome any questions, any comments.
Not seeing any comments in the Q&A or chat, but if people want to, feel free to ask something now, or feel free to reach out to HCD comments or Greg's email or Nicole's email, and yeah, we could have answer your questions later. Thanks so much for joining,
Great.
everyone.
Thank you.